Do men have standards? I thought this was a great topic. It'd be a dope discussion because before everything hit the wave with the podcast, I was curious: did men really have standards, or were the standards set based off what we were hearing? Because I've had these discussions, and you hear a lot of men say what they don't want, what they wouldn't tolerate. They want a natural woman, but I've seen a lot of men just being out and even being around them that most women are dressed up. Most women do wear makeup. Most women don't wear the natural hairstyles. And if they do wear the natural hairstyles, they're often getting accused of being Afrocentric and spiritual and light incense and don't wear deodorant. I mean, so the women that are dressed up to par, that do take the time to invest in themselves, a lot of men do go after them or they lust after them. Or maybe they do have the natural woman at home, but they're on Instagram scrolling and liking and following the things that they say that they don't like. So let's go ahead and open this up. Do men have discussions? I'll go ahead and play this clip and then we'll go ahead and dive into it.
In standards, right? And you said that men didn't have standards, or do men have standards outside of the ones that Kevin Samuels set?
Anytime you ask a man now or any podcast a man has and they say the requirements, they're literally listing the same ones that Kevin Samuels had.
I'm telling you, before he said it, that's what men always wanted. He just had a loud voice.
When I listen to podcasts or like you ask like men that you know, I feel like Kevin Samuels just set like that standard for them. And then it's like they get those things and the women is still not satisfying them because I just feel like it's not what you want. I just feel like you're saying that because it was handed to you in a handbook.
All right. You guys heard the context. Do men have standards? Who would like to go? Let me go to Hank first. What are your thoughts, sir?
I mean, that's just an example. A lot of ladies just didn't listen to the individuals they in a relationship with. That's all it is. They didn't listen to their brothers, their cousins, their uncle, any other man probably in the family. They just didn't listen to them. Because men, like the guy was saying, men been saying this. I'm not a fan of the weaves, wigs, and eyelashes. None of that. I'm not a fan of it. And I haven't been. I haven't been since I was a kid, man. Even when I was younger in high school, I wasn't a big fan of all that shit. And during that time, they was rocking the curls. I wasn't a fan of that shit. So nothing really has changed much since then. And so it was just my standards I had. And I just won't accept I move off of. So it's kind of funny, man, when people are thinking it's just, well, Kevin Samuels said it, now y'all. No, man, men been saying this. A lot of people just ain't been listening. So now, like he said, a guy with a platform has been putting it out there. Now y'all hear it. Y'all just don't like the way it's said. But now y'all hear it. So, main thing, do men have standards? Yes, we do. We all do. We just, some have high standards, some have low. It depends on what type of man you're dealing with at the end of the day.
All right, Sugar Curls, go ahead.
So I was thinking along the lines with Hink. I think it depends on the type of man as well. I do think as a baseline, for the most part, most men want a woman who is fit. Most men want a woman who does take care of herself, who is cooperative. She does submit. Now, in relation to the type of man, there are some men who are not as assertive. There are some men who do not take charge. And so they may have a standard of a woman who does take charge because he's lacking in that area. But as far as the beauty and the looks, there are some men who really love the Afrocentric look. They love the natural look. They love the afros, but then there are some men who like the corporate look. They may prefer, I have talked to men, as you know, I have many clients that actually like the lashes. They like the weave. They like the makeup. So as far as those standards from a visual standpoint, I do think it depends on the man. But as a baseline, I don't think a real man desires a woman who is not cooperative, who, as some of the Kevin Samuels sayings were, who's not friendly. Why would a man want to come home to a woman who's acting like him? He has to go out all day with men, with the world. Why would he want to come home to a woman who is bringing that same garbage into the home? I think most men want peace. So the other standards, I think, are dependent on the type of man that he is.
Okay. Go ahead, Jay. A story to tell. What are your thoughts?
I think men develop standards, and your standards are developed by what you do, where you visit, who you're around. You know, for instance, when I was in the neighborhood and didn't know anything except the neighborhood growing up, I liked me a hood chick, you know, with the tight jeans and the Reebok classics, you know, and the bamboo earrings. I loved that. Then I went off to college and I saw, you know, the sororities, the AKAs, they was stuck up, but they was proper, they was prissy, they spoke well. And I'm like, okay, she got a little attitude, but she's corporate, so to speak. You know, then I went to other areas. So you develop standards, you deal with these different people, you get a different taste for different areas and meet different people that are into different things, and you acquire a taste that develops your standards. Now, if you don't see things or go places, and you know, you'll never realize what's really out there or what you need to stay away with or what may be better for you. But all that stuff is acquired by living and broadening your horizons and trying different things and meeting different people and conversing with different groups of people, you know. So I think initially, you know, our standards are held to our immediate environment, you know, the circle that you're around. But when you broaden that circle, that broadens your standards. You tolerate less. Like Sugar Curls was saying about uh women being argumentative, you know, the rap for New York women is that, oh, they, you know, they hard, they tough, you know, which to an extent is true. You know, there's a few that are not like that, but that is the vast majority. But you come to the South and, you know, they're a little more soft spoken, a little more hospitable. So you like, damn, well, okay, I thought I had to deal with that in New York. I could come down here and, you know, get some hospitality. But it's all to living. You develop your standards, you figure out what you don't like, but and then you acquire them and you hold that to all the people that come into your life. So I think it's developed. And like development, you have to live to develop. You have to grow to evolve. So if you stay in this circle, you're gonna get what you put out. If you never do anything, you're never gonna get anything.
All right. Real Precious, what are your thoughts? Do men have standards?
I'm gonna agree with Jay. Actually, I was just this morning. I was attending church, and my pastor has this thing where he says males are born, men are made, which means that, like Jay was saying, it's through your experience, it's through your growth, it's through, you know, the people who are teaching you, where you then grow those standards. Because little boys who come from the hood per se aren't necessarily going to have high standards, and it's not necessarily their fault to a certain extent until they get to that age where they have autonomy over who they are and who they become and who they want in their life. So do men have standards? I believe that men have standards, but there are some who don't have standards. So you see which men have really grown. And I think that, you know, a lot of men don't even get that credit because a lot of women will box men into the same box. Oh, he just want this, or he just want that, he just want this. And there are men who's like, that's not me. Just like men will box some women in all the same box. And some women are like, wait, but that's not me. You know, so I do believe that men do have standards, but they're made that way. They're not born that way.
Okay. Welcome to the show, Ariel. I'll get to you in a second. Luis, do men have standards?
Yeah, I really like what Jay put down. You know, it is an evolutional process that you kind of grow through, and obviously, you're a byproduct of what you're exposed to and what you listen to, what you consume on a daily basis, the people that you counsel with, right? All of that takes a huge play in terms of your self development and understanding what are those things that are your non-negotiables. You know, what are your standards? What are your non-negotiables? What does that look like? And but one thing that I found very interesting, especially from the video, is that she said that that Kevin Samuels gave every man, you know, their blueprint. But I would argue that every man in here and in most places know what women want, right? What most women want on a base level, right? And that's just ingrained. So I think far too long sort of the culture has ignored the needs and understandings of what men need and what they want, that it's become now a shock that when somebody gets on a microphone with a camera and says it out loud to the world, all of a sudden it's too much to take in. Well, in fact, this has been something that's been slowly echoed to these women for a very long time, and unfortunately, it has taken this type of noise in order to kind of get that attention, that level of attention for men, especially when it comes to the relationship. One thing that I would say about standards is that a lot of the morals and values, you know, sometimes come from your household. You know, whether you're a religious person, whether you're spiritual, whether you adhere to certain family values and traditions, right? And those are very important because they help you kind of navigate. And especially when you're talking to women, I usually refer to as like the 3 T's. You know, what is your training, what is your tradition, and what is your trauma? You know, training being like, what are those skill sets and values that have been passed down to you and instilled in you in your family and within your community? You know, what is your teaching? You know, what are those life lessons that have been instilled upon you? And then trauma, what are those shortcomings that you have experienced, right? And how have you persevered through that? And getting a closer insight of what that looks like, because it's different for everybody, will give you a clear insight of what type of person you're navigating the world with, right? And I think that right there becomes a much stronger cornerstone than as opposed to people relying on what other people are thinking in terms of their standard. Because some people have low standards. Let's be very honest. I forgot who said that, but that's very true. But once you establish your non-negotiable in that, it's going to be as clear as day, and it's also going to repel those who are not meant to be in alignment with you.
All right. Ariel, I'm gonna go ahead and come to you. You get a chance to see the video? I'm gonna play the video real quick for you.
Standards, right? And you said that men didn't have standards, or do men have standards outside of the ones that Kevin Samuels set?
Anytime you ask a man now or any podcast a man has and they say the requirements, they're literally listing the same ones that Kevin Samuels had.
I'm telling you, before he said it, that's what men always wanted. He just had
That's
a
a
loud
fact.
voice.
When I listen to podcasts or like you ask like men that you know, I feel like Kevin Samuels just set like that standard for them. And then it's like they get those things and the women is still not satisfying them because I just feel like it's not what you want. I just feel like you're saying that because it was handed to you in a handbook.
That's the context. Do men have standards? What are your thoughts, Ariel?
I think that in general, yes, that men do have standards. And I think the woman, I don't know her name, does have a point in that it is echoed over and over again, like men want these specific things. But the truth of the matter is when you get married, every man does have a different lifestyle, a different needs. And there are going to be women that are going to be more suited to what they're doing at that point in their life than other women would be. We live in a society now where 2 incomes is necessary for most people. So if you're a high, income earner, maybe you need a different type of woman. But if you're not, maybe you need a woman who has a different type of job, different type of flexibility. So in a broad sense, yes, like men want a woman who is feminine. They want a woman who can probably cook, who is a good mother or nurturer. But then when you look into the nuances of it, you want to make sure that, like, men is going to want to make sure that if I have to work from this time to that time, that she also can maybe be at home during that time, or whatever it may be, if that makes sense.